Welcome to What's in Your Data.
Brought to you by Melissa. Howdy, my name's Daniel Lee and I'm the Chief Data Wrangler at Melissa.
My name is Anna Cheong and I'm a software engineer team lead here at Melissa.
Cool. What do we have today?
I think we actually have a special guest today.
You know, I heard a little bit about this special guest.
Okay.
And I'm very excited to talk with her.
Okay.
Well, for us to speak with her.
Yeah.
Because we talk about data quality. And a lot of our data quality has been centered so far around addresses, even emails, names and phones, even geocoding. Mm-hmm. But here we're going to talk to someone who also works with data, who also has to deal with quality of that data, but it's a different type of data.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear more.
Yeah. So, we have Rebecca Womack, product manager of the Melissa elected officials data, powered by Cicero, with us today.
Fun. All right.
Yeah.
Well, hello, Rebecca.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Introduce yourself. What do you do?
Yeah. So I am the product manager for our elected officials data, powered by Cicero. I've been on the Cicero team for almost 6 years. I started as a data research specialist for the 2020 election season, but then I've been in the product manager role for about 3 years now. And in that role, I help guide the product roadmap, I oversee data maintenance, and I help lead business development.
Okay. Now, I know we threw it out there real quick. Elected officials, powered by Cicero. What's Cicero? I mean, where did that name come from, and what is this data about?
Yeah, so I've been on the product for 6 years, but the product has existed, I think, almost, maybe it's going on 15 years. It's been around for a while, and when it was first created, it was given that name. It's named after Marcus Tullius Cicero, who was a Roman statesman and orator, who was a really eloquent critic of political corruption and a champion of the Roman Republic. So it seemed like a fitting name for a product that was intended to promote civic engagement. That's the original name for what is now the elected officials database.
Okay, so named after a statesman.
Right, Roman statesman, defender of the Republic and anti-political corruption.
That's a long title.
A lot of titles. A lot of titles.
Yeah, a lot of titles. Yeah, they did it all back then.
So, what's in your data?
Yeah, well, the title of the podcast. So yeah, I knew you were going to ask me that one. So our elected officials database is a database of electoral districts and office holders, primarily legislative branch officials, but also some executive branch officials. And it's primarily elected officials, but also some appointed. It sounds much better to say elected officials database than elected officials and some appointed officials database. So that's what we call it, but there are some appointed officials in it. And we have a lot of office holder data. So basic contact information, addresses, phone numbers, faxes. I guess people still use faxes, emails, web forms. And then we also have photos, biographies, URL for their main governmental website, as well as, and this is a big one, committee and subcommittee assignments, which is a huge part of the policy-making process. So we have all those assignments, and then we also maintain kind of a host of external identifiers for officials. So mostly social media, but some other identifiers too. For example, Federal Elections Commission ID. So it's a bunch of officials, a bunch of contact information about them, committee assignments, external identifiers. And in terms of the geographical scope and the level of government scope, we have data for 9 countries, including the US. The other countries are the United Kingdom and its constituent countries, so England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And then we have Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Germany. Across the board, we maintain national and federal level data. In the US, Canada, and Australia, we also have state level data. We have state level data for all of those other countries, with the exception of Germany. And then we have local level data in the United States and Canada. Yeah, and when I say taking a step back, when I say we have districts, I mean that we have geospatial files. And so that's what enables an address to be geocoded. And then our products can help determine where does that address, what district does it fall in.
So you're saying, Rebecca, given a geopoint of any address or wherever I am, I can find out who's representing me?
Exactly. Yeah. And that can be done with, so we make this data available in a couple of different ways. We have an API. And so our API, right, you pass a location query. And like you said, that could be a complete street address. In fact, that would be best. That's the most accurate way to match someone to their representative. Our location query can also take a postal code, either a 5-digit or a 9-digit, which is a little bit less accurate, but still useful in some cases. So yeah, our API can do that for people. We've also got a really simple spreadsheet upload tool called District Match that doesn't require any tech background. And then we also license the data, just raw shape files and the office holder data, and someone would then do the extra step to do that match. But because we have geospatial files, someone with our data can do that match.
Well, it seems like there's a lot of data and a lot of parts to this data set. So curious, why do you like working with data?
I love working with data because it's a database is a way to organize a ton of tiny bits of information that, if you took that a piece of information on its own, it's maybe not very interesting. But when you take them all together as a whole, it's very compelling. It allows you to do things that you couldn't do before. So in the context of the Cicero database, right, if I just had information for one legislator, that wouldn't be very interesting or useful. But the fact that we have all of this data for legislators at all levels of government, it starts to let you do some pretty interesting things. You can build tools that let people participate in the democratic process. So that's a cool thing about working with data in Cicero. But just from a general standpoint, data is so powerful for being an aggregation of all of those little bits of info that on their own may not mean much, but you get them together and you can start to tell interesting stories, answer questions, learn things.
So I'm thinking about your elected officials data, and based on my limited knowledge about that, I'm thinking there's like senators, state senators, representative, assemblyman, council member. There's so many terms, and so when you're working with all this, I mean, what are common problems you see as you're trying to pull it all together? Is it confusing to try to unify? Is there a standard?
Yeah, so we have, right, so our data will reflect the actual role that a particular chamber, we refer to the chambers within a legislature, so an upper chamber and a lower chamber, like a state house and a state senate. They, like you said, they might be called an assembly member. In California, they're assembly members. They might be called a representative. It depends on the state. Thank you, federalism. The 50 states can do things 50 different ways. So our data will reflect that because that's an important piece of that's important when constituents are reaching out to their representatives and addressing them. You want to have the right title. But we also have additional data hierarchies. So if you wanted to take our data and specify that you only want to see legislators in upper chambers, upper state chambers, that would be a classification that would allow you to look at all members within that category, regardless of what their title, what their role is called within a particular place.
So,
Oh, no, go for it.
okay. You mentioned District Match as a tool, API as something you offer, and just raw data sets. But what cool things have you seen, your customers use this data for?
Yeah. So our customers, like, there's a very common use case, and that use case is that customers are building a tool or building a tool to match constituents to their representatives for the purpose of some kind of advocacy. So it might be a particular advocacy campaign, or it could be for a more general purpose. But ultimately, it does come down to helping people identify who their representatives, who their elected representatives are. So I think it's really cool that one of our customers is actually a state legislature. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say who, so I'll leave it out. But
It's one of the 50, right?
it's one of the 50, and they use our data to power their look up your legislator tool on their website. So at a very basic level, right? If you are a resident of this state and you go to that website and you want to know who is my legislator, how do I contact them? You would enter your address, and then our data, Melissa's elected officials data powered by Cicero, is providing that information. So it's, ultimately the elected officials database is a nonpartisan tool that anyone can use, and people are really using it for the same purpose, but to a variety of different ends, depending on what it is they're trying to accomplish.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, well, and now it being, the election time, and there's primaries happening here and there, right? I bet all of those data sets and all these tools that people can use elected officials for is coming in pretty handy. I would think. There's also a big push for not a big push, but there seems to be a lot of changes happening around redistricting.
Redistricting, yes. Yeah.
So how does that affect the product, I should say?
Yeah. So you're right that every time we have an election, office holders are changing. Even between elections, office holders may leave, they resign, they pass away, and then vacancies have to be filled. In addition, the same person might stay in office, but they change office numbers, they get a new room number, they get a new phone number. And there's the issue of redistricting, right? That's the other part of our database. So we have office holders, and then we have those legislative districts. And it used to be in the United States that redistricting happened once a decade after the decennial census. It was a pretty straightforward, kind of boring process that I don't think got too much news attention. But increasingly, the process has become quite politicized. And as a result, it's happening much more frequently. So redistricting happens like in the last round of redistricting in 2020 was also complicated by COVID. So it happened, the census happened more slowly and redistricting happened more slowly. But then you had a lot of like litigation brought by different parties saying that this map or that map was unconstitutional, or they were challenging it in some way. And so in many cases, that litigation was successful and maps changed. And then in some cases, they changed again and they changed again. So this is really a new thing in the US. And so we have a team that is tracking redistricting and updating our geospatial files for that. And definitely our users, in the same way that you need to, before you can know who your representative is, you have to know, well, what district do I live in? Or what district am I going to be voting in? So yeah, that's a part of our tool, and one that we are updating with more frequency than I think we could have imagined we would be when Cicero was, when the elected officials database was first created as Cicero 15 years ago.
So you mentioned a lot of updates at federal level, state level, local level, other countries, chambers up and down, top and bottom. How are you innovating your processes? How are you continuing to improve?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, well, when it comes to redistricting, that's probably, you know, it used to be that you could predict or you knew when the redistricting was going to be happening, and then you would look out for you would look out for those changes. And now there's so much ad hoc redistricting. I'll call it ad hoc redistricting. You know, you weren't expecting it. It just it happened off cycle. There's so much of that happening that right we're having to come up with kind of new ways to monitor that. So um, for redistricting, you know, we're following. We have news alerts, you know, redistricting news alerts, and we're getting a lot of those alerts. That's how we track it. Um, and when it comes to yeah, so I want to back up a little bit, and I am going to answer your question about innovation, just to paint a little bit of a more detailed picture about the Cicero database, like just the volume of data. So we talked about office holders. We have over 17,000 like active office holders in Cicero right now. And the US is actually the only place where we, at the moment, maintain committee assignments. And there are over 32,000 committee assignments that we track. And I don't mean committees. There are fewer committees, but one official can be assigned to or a member of more than one committee. So I just mean officials connected to committees. There are over 32,000 such assignments between committees and subcommittees. And then there are over 41,000 external identifiers just for our US officials that we currently have in the Cicero database. And so those are the things like social media accounts, so official Facebook handles, X, formerly known as Twitter, you know, accounts, Instagram, the FEC commission ID that I was talking about. So 17,000 officials, 32,000 committee assignments, 41,000 external identifiers, plus redistricting. And yeah, and how do we stay on top of those changes? And so I think a question that is it's the question that always is behind, I think, improvements or innovation to Cicero's, yeah, to the for the elected officials database team is how can we make this more efficient? How can we make this sustainable and scalable? And so that's, I think, will always be a question that drives improvement for our team. And so it could be as simple as, you know, changing the kind of tool that we use. We were using for a while Google Sheets as a way of tracking once we learned about a vacancy. Actually, we were using Google News Alerts to learn about vacancies and using Google Sheets to sort of to track them. And then we started using Airtable, which is a really cool, like user-friendly relational database that just makes that task a little bit, it makes it a lot easier. And we also started using, of course, you knew I was going to say it, AI, because there's so much potential there. So we now we've trained a large language model on helping us to read the news and identify vacancies and replacements in office. So it's not that we are going to a legislature's website every day or every week and checking every piece of information for every official, because that would not be possible. But we're trying to be smarter about how we stay on top of how we make the changes, how we find the changes, and then making them is much easier. But it's finding the needle in the haystack, so to speak, that is the thing that is driving improvement. How can we be better? And so for right now, of course, a big investment is in AI with humans in the loop, because we still AI isn't that good yet. But yeah, that's definitely an area of improvement and investment for our team.
Yeah, definitely. You have to use all the tools and you have to learn all the latest and greatest tools, because to the newly elected official, they'll want their information correct right away, right? The people who they want to know their representative today. Their redistricting affects them today at their local level. And of course, if they're depending on your data, they'll want that data to be as fresh and as not stagnant as possible.
Yeah, definitely. And after election, again, elections are expected, so we can plan for those. We staff up during election season because we know we're going to have a big we got our work cut out for us. We know there's a lot of updates, but yeah, it's all of those between election changes or off-cycle redistricting that is especially challenging because you don't know it's coming.
I got a user submitted question here for you, Rebecca. They're wondering, 50 states in America, are they all the same? All the legislatures? Is there always a upper chamber, lower chamber? Are they all bicameral?
So they're not all the same. I mean, federalism. So every state, there's every state can kind of has a lot of leeway to do its own thing. Nebraska is a unicameral legislature. That's the only one out of the 50. So they are all classified in our database as upper chamber legislators. So there's the Nebraska unicameral, and then all of the others have two chambers, an upper and a lower. But like you touched on earlier, different assembly member, or in Chicago at the local level, they're alderpersons, not council members. It might be called a city commission instead of a city council. So yeah, there can be a lot of variation, but then again, like I mentioned, we have those data hierarchy tools to group like with like at a more fundamental level when that's necessary.
Very cool factoid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even know some of those words.
Nebraska?
No. Yes, exactly. But now I know. Context. Well, we certainly did a lot of coverage. I mean, I'm sure Rebecca can go much further and much deeper into this topic.
At least 6 years worth.
At least 6 years worth. But yeah, we talked a lot about elected officials and the data and, the trials and tribulations of keeping the data updated, right? But I just want to know a little bit more about what you, Rebecca, like to do on your free time, and just a little bit more about, your hobbies and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I am married and have a 1.5-year-old daughter. So you can imagine that is keeping me very busy. It's a lot of fun. I love seeing the world through her eyes. We went to the beach this past weekend, had a beach weekend, and, seeing her kind of discover sand and waves, and seagulls. She likes sand, she likes seagulls, she likes water, she does not like waves. So that takes up a lot of time in a wonderful way. I also really love to cook. I love food. I love everything about it. I like gardening. I like eating. I like cooking. And I guess circling it back to data, one of the things that I like to do when I cook, when I am using a recipe to cook, is I always take notes on. I'm basically collecting data. I'm taking notes on how am I going to make it different next time? Did I think it was good? Have my own little sort of like rating system for how good I thought it was. And then the next time I make it, I'm like, what data do I have on this?
And do you keep it updated?
Yeah, I'll take notes. I'll be like, made it again, tried this, it was much better, or yeah.
Do you have an actual recipe book that you're physically writing?
Yeah, I do. I have recipes kind of from all over. I know there's an app for this. I know it. I'm certain. I'm not even just surmising. Like, I know these apps exist, but I still like printing. I like printing recipes, and I like handwriting my notes, and I like having them all collected where I can see them next to my other cookbooks.
Now, working with democratic data, does your family function as a democracy and vote on these foods, or is it a dictatorship and you say you eat this?
Oh, that's a good question. It's democratic, Yeah, it would backfire if it wasn't.
Oh, that's fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rebecca, for joining us today and sharing, just the tip of the iceberg for elected officials. It was very interesting to hear about.
I'm actually. I have one more question. This is.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a me submitted question.
Oh, okay.
You like cooking, Rebecca? What is your favorite dish or your number one recipe, most voted thing?
Oh God, that's good. Well, the thing that I mean, that's hard to, it's right, like that's hard because it depends on the season and and sometimes you forget about something and you come back to it. A food that I had never tried before, and this is, I think, the beauty of a recipe because you're like, I would have never thought of this. I didn't know about this. It's from the New York Times. It's a recipe for juk, which I think is I think it's Korean, and it's like a rice porridge, and it's Juuk. Does this? I'm probably saying it wrong, but it's like you make it in a pressure cooker, like rice and chicken and ginger and garlic and some other things, and then there's like a vinegar scallion sauce at the end, and it's so simple, but it made chicken and rice new to me. Uh, I, you know, so yeah, so that one was one that was on rotation during the winter. It was a really great winter dish.
I think
Yeah.
you and Anna should trade some recipes.
I don't actually make juk like that because I'm just lazy and I just throw stuff in there in the pot and I just stand there and stir. But it looks like Rebecca's doing it the right way. It sounds like she's doing it the right way.
No, I'm sorry. I meant Rebecca. I think you need to give Anna your recipe.
Yeah, it's if you've got a pressure cooker or an instant pot, like you just throw it all in there and it does its thing and then it's done and then you stir it. Yeah. So it's kind of amazing.
Well, thank you for sharing, Rebecca. And now you're making me think of a nice warm porridge. Yum.
All right. Well, if there are no other questions.
Anything from? Okay, no.
All right. Well, again, thank you, Rebecca, for joining us. And if you like this type of content please make sure to like and subscribe so we can reach more viewers like you and you can be notified of when we have new episodes.
We'd love to hear from you, so email us at podcast@melissa.com, follow us on LinkedIn, or just comment on this episode.
All right. Well, thank you again, Rebecca. And until next time.
Stay data curious.